Campaigns of Kenaz by Ginzberg. After these preparations, Kenaz took the field against the enemy, with 300,000 men. The first day he slew 8,000 of the foe, and the second day 5,000. But not all the people were devoted to Kenaz. Some murmured against him, and calumniating him said, "Kenaz stays at home, while we expose ourselves on the field." The servants of Kenaz reported these words to him. He ordered the 16 men who had railed against him to be incarcerated, and he swore to kill them, if God would but grant him assistance for the sake of his people. Thereupon he assembled 300 men of his attendants, supplied them with horses, and bade them be prepared to make a sudden attack during the night, but to tell none of the plans he harbored in his mind. The scouts sent ahead to reconnoiter reported that the Amorites were too powerful for him to risk an engagement. Kenaz, however, refused to be turned away from his intention. At midnight he and his 300 trusty attendants advanced upon the Amorite camp. Close upon it, he commanded his men to halt, but to resume their march and follow him when they should hear the notes of the trumpet. If the trumpet was not sounded, they were to return home. Alone Kenaz ventured into the very camp of the enemy. Praying to God fervently, he asked that a sign be given him. "Let this be the sign of the salvation thou wilt accomplish for me this day. I shall draw my sword from its sheath, and brandish it so that it glitters in the camp of the Amorites. If the enemy recognize it as the sword of Kenaz, then I shall know thou wilt deliver them into my hand. If not, I shall understand thou hast not granted my prayer, but dost purpose to deliver me into the hand of the enemy for my sins." He heard the Amorites say, "Let us proceed to give battle to the Israelites, for our sacred gods, the nymphs, are in their hands and will cause their defeat." When he heard these words, the Spirit of God came over Kenaz. He arose and swung his sword above his head. Scarce had the Amorites seen it gleam in the air when they exclaimed, "Verily, this is the sword of Kenaz, who has come to inflict wounds and pain. But we know that our gods, who are held by the Israelites, will deliver them into our hands." Up then to battle. Knowing that God had heard his petition, Kenaz threw himself upon the Amorites, and mowed down 45,000 of them, and as many perished at the hands of their own brethren, for God had sent the angel Gabriel 17 to his aid, and he had struck the Amorites blind, so that they fell upon one another. On account of the vigorous blows dealt by Kenaz on all sides, his sword stuck to his hand. A fleeing Amorite whom he stopped to ask him how to loose it, advised him to slay a Hebrew, and let his warm blood flow over his hand. Kenaz accepted his advice, but only in part. Instead of a Hebrew, he slew the Amorite himself, and his blood freed his hand from the sword. 18. When Kenaz came back to his men, he found them sunk in profound sleep, which had overtaken them that they might not see the wonders done for their leader. They were not a little astonished on awakening to behold the whole plain strewn with the dead bodies of the Amorites. Then Kenaz said to them, "Are the ways of God like unto the ways of man? Through me the Lord hath sent deliverance to this people. Arise now and go back to your tents." The people recognized that a great miracle had happened, and they said, "Now we know that God hath wrought salvation for his people. He hath no need of numbers, but only of holiness." On his return from the campaign, Kenaz was received with great rejoicing. The whole people now gave thanks to God for having put him over them as their leader. They desired to know how he had won the great victory. Kenaz only answered, "Ask those who were with me about my deeds." His men were thus forced to confess that they knew nothing, only, on awakening, they had seen the plain full of dead bodies, without being able to account for their being there. Then Kenaz turned to the 37 men imprisoned before he left for the war, for having cast aspersions upon him. "Well," he said, "what charge have you to make against me?" Seeing that death was inevitable, they confessed they were of the sort of sinners whom Kenaz and the people had executed, and God had now surrendered them to him on account of their misdeeds. They too were burnt with fire. Kenaz reigned for a period of 57 years. When he felt his end draw nigh, he summoned the 2 prophets, Phinehas and Jabez, 19 together with the priest Phinehas, the son of Eleazar. To these he spake, "I know the heart of this people, it will turn from following after the Lord. Therefore do I testify against it." Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, replied, "As Moses and Joshua testified, so do I testify against it. For Moses and Joshua prophesied concerning the vineyard, the beautiful planting of the Lord, which knew not who had planted it, and did not recognize him who cultivated it, so that the vineyard was destroyed, and brought forth no fruit. These are the words my father commanded me to say unto this people." Kenaz broke out into loud wailing, and with him the elders and the people, and they wept until eventide, saying, Is it for the iniquity of the sheep that the shepherd must perish? May the Lord have compassion upon his inheritance that it may not work in vain. The Spirit of God descended upon Kenaz, and he beheld a vision. He prophesied that this world would continue to exist only 7,000 years, to be followed then by the kingdom of heaven. These words spoken, the prophetical spirit departed from him, and he straightway forgot what he had uttered during his vision. Before he passed away, he spoke once more, saying, If such be the rest which the righteous obtain after their death, it were better for them to die than live in this corrupt world and see its iniquities. 20. As Kenaz left no male heirs, Zebul was appointed his successor. Mindful of the great service Kenaz had performed for the nation, Zebul acted a father's part toward the 3 unmarried daughters of his predecessor. At his instance, the people assigned a rich marriage portion to each of them. They were given great domains as their property. The oldest of the 3, Ethema by name, he married to Elizaphan, the second, Phalah to Odihul, and the youngest, Zilpah to Dol. Zebul, the judge, instituted a treasury at Shiloh. He bade the people bring contributions, whether of gold or of silver. They were only to take heed not to carry anything thither that had originally belonged to an idol. His efforts were crowned with success. The freewill offerings to the temple treasure amounted to 20 talents of gold and 250 talents of silver. Zebul's reign lasted 25 years. Before his death, he admonished the people solemnly to be God-fearing and observant of the law. 21.